Hi, welcome to my sewing room. I love it when my points come together. It doesn't happen 100% of the time, but with these tips that I'm going to show you today, it can happen more often than it doesn't. I'm going to give you my top 5 tips on how to get perfect points in your quilting projects. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned quilter, these tips will help you bring your sewing to the next level. So let's dive right in. Tip number 5, don't use quilting clips to line up your points. Now don't get me wrong, I love these clips and I have a lot of them and I use them for a lot of different things, but they're not good for lining up points. The reason they don't work for perfect points is because they need to be taken out before the needle even comes close to the point. And even in this short space, your points can shift or get off. Tip number 4, press your seams open or nest your seams. This is a must for me when I have a lot of points coming together. I like to press them open as it reduces the bulk around the points, making them sharper and crisper. Years ago, people would never think of pressing their seams open, as it would allow for pieces of the batting to escape. But batting is made so much better these days, so you don't have to worry about it bearding out of the quilt. And as long as you're using a good quality batting, you shouldn't have to worry about that with any open seams. There are times when I press my seams to the side, such as when I only have 2 seams coming together. For these occasions, I like to press my seams so that the seams will nest together. Nesting the seams can help the seams interlock and align perfectly. This makes it easier to sew the block together and ensures your points match up right where they should. You may have to figure out which way you want to press your seams. It may not always be to the dark side if you want to nest them together. Tip number 3, pull back and pin. Sometimes you'll have some odd angles that will never nest up or line up perfectly, like a half square triangle being sewn to a V block, or the points of a Lone Star diamond. For these, I pull down one side of the seam about where the 1/4 inch seam would be sewn. Then I look at where the points need to come together at that 1/4 inch line, and I adjust them slightly just so they're together, and then I put a pin in it. I make sure part of the pin goes all the way through that point. This has been the most successful method for me when I'm working with odd angled points. Number 2, pin every point and use fine pins. This is actually 2 tips in one, but I think it's very important. I've invested in some fine pins and I use a lot of them. I like to use fine pins as they are thinner and they don't add extra bulk that distorts the fabric and skews the point that I'm trying to line up. Thicker pins have that extra height at the sewing machine right when you get to the needle, whereas fine pins eliminates a lot of that. Once you have some fine pins, pin every seam and point that comes together. Now I know some quilters don't like to use a lot of pins, but if you want to get those sharp, precise points, you need to pin and you need to pin a lot. You can't have too many pins. Pinning ensures that your fabric pieces stay aligned and exactly where they need to be, all the way up to the needle. Some seams nest together really nice, but I pin those too, because those can shift as you're sewing the length of the fabric through the machine. A pin will give them an anchor and keep them right where they need to be. And tip number 1, you want to make sure you have a proper 1/4 inch seam allowance or a scant seam. This might seem simple, but having the perfect seam will help out with your perfect points. It helps your original units all come out to their proper size, which makes pinning and adjusting so much easier. Take the time to figure out where your 1/4 inch seam is on your machine, and mark it and test it. Sew a sample and see if it lines up at a 1/4 inch. I mentioned a scant 1/4 inch seam as part of this tip. If I know I'm going to be pressing my seams over instead of open, I'm going to want to use a scant 1/4 inch seam. So if I have a scant 1/4 inch seam, it makes up for that, and I still come out with nice sized units. All this is I'm sewing a thread's width over closer to the edge. So it's not a full 1/4 inch, it's a little bit shorter. I have an accurate 1/4 inch foot for my machine that works well, but if you don't have that, a piece of tape on the bed of your machine can be a quick and easy way to mark that perfect seam allowance. And finally, a bonus tip. Take your time. Getting perfect points does take more time. If you know you need a quilt in a hurry, you might want to pick a pattern that doesn't have a lot of points lining up, as this does slow down the quilting process. It takes extra time to pin each seam, and extra time to press them open, or trying to figure out which way they need to be pressed in order for them to nest together nicely. You also need to slow down sewing when you get close to your pins. You can sew over them, which I do a lot, but if you hit a pin with your needle, you'll need to replace your needle, as it will dull the needle and sometimes get a little burr on it. And every time that burr goes down into your fabric, it can ruin it and pull like little threads out of your fabric. And if you want to risk sewing over them, you might have to go through more needles. And taking that little bit of time in the beginning to make sure your seams are on track can also slow things down as well. But knowing all this beforehand and realizing that perfect points is not a quick process can help you mentally when you're ready to jump in and perfect your points. So there you have it, my top 5 tips to help you create perfect points. I hope some of these were helpful to you. And if you have some of your own tips, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them, and it'd be great that we can all help and learn from each other. Thank you so much for watching, and happy quilting!